What are we talking about today? That's a good question. It is Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025. And I'm happy to be joined by my friend Pete. How you doing, Pete?
I'm doing okay. Had some tough weather around here, but it seems like the sun is peeking out of the clouds, and I tend to pay attention to the little things in life now, like how pretty the trees are and whether the sun is peeking out from the clouds. So,
Right on.
that's how I'm doing.
Yeah, we had some heavy rains this morning, and then a little bit of sun and some more rain, so it's very dynamic day outside.
Well, October in New England.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Very exciting to be going through my morning routine, and had multiple text messages from some of our diehard listeners who are responding to today's episode that dropped first thing this morning.
Yeah, the Wednesday morning fan club are true fans. Yeah, I got a text from my brother.
I love all of our fans equally. But some I love a little more equally because they text me or text you right after their morning commute when they've tuned in to our weekly cast.
Our weekly cast. Yeah, we're gonna have to take some breaks. The holidays are coming up, so just to set people's expectations, we're gonna.
I don't know, man. You never know how many you're gonna get out of me on this thing. I think you're playing a game of chicken that might bite you in the ass.
Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, well, just trying to buy us a little bit of leeway.
Well, we've always got a few episodes in the hopper, as people are figuring out by the time these things get published, it's a couple weeks later.
Yeah. Although we got no backlog right now, this will be up next week.
Okay.
That's why I'm worried. Anyways, we're going to persevere. Maybe we'll do 2 a week, Pete. We'll do two of these every week.
Right. I'm available.
Today, I thought we might talk a little bit about your time in Switzerland.
Okay.
So, first of all, your wife is from Switzerland, but that's not like how you met or anything like that, right?
No, and she is a Swiss citizen, born and raised in the United States to a Swiss mother. So
okay.
She's a birthright Swiss citizen, but never lived there until we lived there as adults.
Yeah.
But her mother spoke Swiss dialect to her, always. So just not to get ahead of ourselves, but Swiss dialect will sound vaguely Germanic to somebody who doesn't speak German. There is very little in common. And Swiss dialect is not a written language. It's a spoken dialect, and the dialect varies from canton to canton. But what was always fascinating to me when we were in Zurich, and Lynn is speaking with a local, nobody, unless you live there, there's nobody who's fluent and sounds like a native. And people will, after a couple minutes, they kind of cock their head a little bit because they're like, she sounds like a native, but there's just something a little off about the way she's speaking, or she might not quite use the right word or whatever. And so that's pretty interesting. But in any event, she's born and raised here, but Swiss citizen. So our kids are all Swiss citizens, and I have subsequently become a Swiss citizen.
No kidding.
It's a process I started in 2018 or 2019, and got slowed down over COVID, but it was quite arduous, which could be a whole story in and of itself. But where would you like to start?
Yeah. Well, let's start about, you were working for UBS?
Yes. And I was in a management capacity out in Western Mass. And right after the merger happened, UBS and PaineWebber started sort of cross-pollinating a little bit at very senior levels of management. And one of the senior guys who ran the wealth management business for PaineWebber went over to Zurich and had a big job over there.
Okay.
like several layers above me.
Sure.
He and I knew each other, and he knew about my Swiss connection, and he had cooked up this idea that throwing an American into the domestic Swiss wealth management business was a good idea.
Okay.
And I was an obvious
Yeah. you'd be the
target for
best
his
candidate.
idea.
Yeah.
And, for the uninitiated, to say you're going into the middle of a Swiss domestic business means you're surrounded by Swiss people. It was very Swiss culture, and Swiss culture is very, very different from American culture in a lot of ways. And so it was a little bit of I was what's the term? A change agent.
Yeah.
In a very much a lower middle management capacity. And so in 2004, the moving van showed up and packed up all our stuff, and Lynn and Jack and Mike and Lily and Hammy the hamster
Hammy the hamster.
got on a Swiss Air flight in business class with Hammy the hamster in the overhead compartment.
Nice.
And we landed in Switzerland on August 1st of 2004.
How much convincing did it take? Because that's a major life change that you're doing. And, you've got 3 kids. Everybody's sort of uprooting. Hammy the hamster doesn't know what's going on. So what was most appealing to you? I mean, they must have, to incentivize you to pick up your whole life and move it over there. But yeah, tell me about that process.
Yeah, it was a good time to do it, frankly. I mean, we were excited. It didn't take that much convincing.
Okay.
Lynn's parents lived there. Two of Lynn's sisters lived there. She's got a brother who lives in the States. But so, we had an infrastructure there. It's not like we were moving someplace where we didn't know anybody. So that certainly made it easier. And Lynn had been speaking dialect to our kids. And so we put them in local school. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but when you're on an expat assignment like that, the company will pay for, American school.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big American school in Zurich, which has a U.S.-based curriculum. And if your kids are sort of junior high school age, you kind of have to do that because, then applying to college gets weird if you don't have the normal curriculum.
Right.
But they were in elementary school, and so we put them in Swiss school. That decision had some good aspects and maybe some aspects we hadn't thought of as it related to the kids. Just as an example, when we moved there and put Mike into school, our middle boy, he was just learning how to read English, and now he's having to learn to read German.
Yeah.
And so he was delayed in his written language skills, proficiency.
Uh-huh.
At the end of the day, it didn't matter. It just that affected him a little bit.
Must have been extra hard for him. Sure,
it was hard. And the other thing was, kids can be brutal, and Jack and Mike were the other. I mean, they really had, this is a plus and a minus. I think it was helpful in a lot of ways to be an outsider. They got picked on, and you guys talk funny, and
yep.
They didn't necessarily follow everything that was going on language-wise. The sports that they might be good. Everybody plays soccer. At the recess, as their soccer balls getting kicked around. And anyway, it was hard on them. And I guess the other aspect of it is we landed on August 1st. One of the requirements that the Swiss had for me was that I needed to speak German for this job. And I said, well, I don't speak German. And they said, well, we have a plan for that. As you might imagine, they know how to plan.
Sure.
And I did 1 month of intensive, 5 hours a day of German school in Zurich. And then I did 3 months of intensive German school in Germany, where every Sunday I drove to Germany, and I lived with this retired couple who fed me breakfast and lunch, who didn't speak a word of English. And every morning from 8 to 1, I had half of that time was in a class with 4 or 5, like executive types who were doing these. But most people come for a week or two,
Right.
And then the other half of the day was just one-on-one language training. And like the first 2 weeks was exciting because it's all new and cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next 2 months was just like stick a fork in your eye it was just very difficult every day. Your brain is operating on like high alert. It's very hard to learn to operate in another language in a short period of time. So it was fun and intellectual. And this was before UBS lost $53 billion in subprime lending.
Sure.
And so they were paying me, like I was getting paid my regular compensation
To
go to
learn.
language school. It was a gift.
Yeah.
And what was sort of fascinating is every Sunday and Friday I would drive back and forth. It's about a 2-hour drive to where I was going. And Freiburg am Breisgau was where the university was. I would listen to the radio, like NPR News type of radio.
Right.
And, for the first month driving back and forth, it was all like I couldn't even identify a word.
Just like
you know what I
noise
mean?
and sounds. Yeah.
And then as time went on, the metaphor I use, it's, when you're looking through a camera lens and you're twisting it in and out of focus, like from one extreme to the other extreme, and it's in focus for just a moment.
Yeah.
Sort of as each week went by, it would remain in focus for a little bit longer each time, to the point that at the end it was more in focus than not in focus. Not that I could identify, at the end of 4 or 5 months listening to the radio, which is listening to the radio and talking on the phone are the two hardest things to do because you have no visual cue or visual context or, ability to see their lips to say, what is that word exactly?
Right.
At the end of that time, I would be able to tell you what they were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly none of the nuances, but I'm like, okay, this is the issue.
Right.
And so that was quite cool. And then, I just took it from there. Zurich is a difficult place to learn German because the Swiss they start in dialect. Their second preference would be English. And their third preference would be what they call High German, which we just call German. It's, my sort of joke. But so you have to get to a certain level where you can fight that fight because early on, like interacting at a store or something, would go back and forth and they'd realize I was struggling a little bit and they'd switch to English.
Yeah.
And I didn't have enough ability and then I would just keep speaking German and they, ultimately, they're a service-oriented economy, and they would switch to German, and I'm like, okay, I've made it.
So the dialect is so interesting. So you call it speaking in dialect. The dialect has a name, though? Like, what would
Schweizerdeutsch.
Schweizerdeutsch.
And that's how the Swiss would say it. Like, in German, it's not Schweizer, it's Schweizer, which is Swiss. And Deutsch is Deutsch.
Okay.
So Schweizerdeutsch is what you would say in High German.
And you said there's not a written form. Is that because if you wrote it, it would just be German and you'd lose the dialect aspect? Or
no,
is
it's like the words are different, truncated, pronounced differently, spelled differently. So there are some written forms where it's just phonetic.
Okay.
They'll write it out phonetically, but it is not a written language.
Interesting. Okay, so you're over there. You're in this intensive German study program for 4 weeks, 8 weeks.
No, well, August to December.
Several months.
Yep. And I start my job in January.
And so you had some time to get ready, and you had a very clear goal, and you had a sense of how you were progressing. Were you really nervous? Were you stressed about this, or did you think we'll be fine?
Yeah, the corporate rule there was when you're in a meeting, speak whatever language you're most comfortable with.
Okay.
And so the Germans would speak whatever the German Swiss Germans would speak German. The French would always speak French. And the Italians were like the redheaded stepchildren, so they would, depends who they were talking to, it's whether they'd speak German or French. And what was it was always interesting because the German Swiss, would learn, know French and would make attempts to speak French. The French Swiss, they may be fluent in German, and they won't even acknowledge it and will not speak. Like they're very, very.
There's some history there, I think.
So I always enjoyed that, and so I would just speak English. But like being in a meeting where there's 5 people talking, I'd get home every night exhausted just trying to pay attention.
Yeah. So were you able to be well, I guess how long did you end up staying there? Because you were there.
Yeah, just about 3 years.
Okay.
What I realized after a very short period of time is that I was in the Swiss wealth management business in the sales management function.
Okay.
Which maybe was a department of 15 or 20 people. It kind of organized campaigns and stuff. And I quickly realized that they had no idea what to do with me. They really weren't that interested in having me there. I think I got sort of foisted upon them. And so I decided that I was just going to ingratiate myself and, get them to like me eventually.
Yeah. How'd you do that?
Which took a while. The one thing I did was I really worked. I continued getting German lessons from a private tutor, once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
All that period of time that culminated maybe like in March, I gave my first presentation in front of 50 or 75 people in German.
Yeah.
And at that point, they were sort of begrudgingly like, all right, this is pretty cool. Because the number of Americans that move, to Zurich and actually make the effort to learn
work.
German
is
like zero. Among other things, you could live an entire lifetime in Zurich just speaking English.
Speaking English, yeah. You don't have to learn.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
And so that won them over eventually.
I want to hear a little bit of German. Introduce how would you introduce your presentation or whatever as you're addressing?
Hallo, mein Name ist Peter. Ich komme aus den USA. Bin in Chicago aufgewachsen. Ich habe in Middletown, Connecticut studiert und seit 2014 habe ich bei der Raymond James & Associates gearbeitet. Und ich bin Vermögensverwalter.
It's interesting how you don't put an accent on the sort of English original proper names like towns and cities and companies.
Right.
I never know what to do.
I just said my name's Peter. I was born and raised in Chicago. I went to college in Connecticut, in Middletown, Connecticut. I've worked for Raymond James since 2014, and I'm a wealth manager.
Yeah. So you're over there. You were, you ingratiated yourself. You were maybe somewhat effective in your role there, in helping the domestic Swiss business get a little Yankee ingenuity or whatever.
Well, so one of the big things I did, which was a little bit revolutionary, and I just came up with it and said, guys, here's what I want to do. And I went out and kind of pitched it to the field, and the people in the field really wanted it, so they had no choice but to.
Okay.
And I sort of borrowed heavily from some sort of, I'm going to call it sales training that I had received earlier, which is, in a consultative sales process, a potential client has sort of 7 questions that they have in their mind. Not necessarily specifically, and they're not going to ask them, but it's who are you? What do you do? Why do you do what you do? Who have you done it for? And why should I do business with you?
Mm-hmm.
That's 5 questions, not 7 questions. And the way, in the U.S. in my business, if you ask a financial advisor, why is your best client your client? The advisor's going to say, because of me, because I'm really good, and here's what I do for him or her, and blah, blah, blah. It's all about the advisor.
Right.
And that rings true, right? If a really good advisor from from Merrill Lynch or Raymond James or name your firm, leaves and goes to another firm, 90+% of the clients go with them, right? The relationship is with the advisor primarily and with the firm, secondarily, right? They want to know you're working at a good firm, but they don't really care.
Right.
In Europe, there is a much bigger focus on the institution. So if you go to a client advisor, at one of these at UBS and say, why is your biggest client your client? First of all, they freak out because they think you're asking them who the client is, and it's a violation of it's a felony to bank privacy, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Just like what why are they with you? We're UBS. We're so big. We're the best. We have all the capabilities. Blah blah blah. UBS.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I get that. That's why they have their relationship with UBS. But why you and not that guy? What's the difference between you and that guy? And that would, I'm making it sound funny for the purposes of this podcast, but
they
it's still
didn't
kind of true.
actually, yeah.
They didn't have an answer,
Right.
and it made their head explode.
Yeah.
Because everything was on the institution.
Right.
So I went out and did a bunch of training to help people, answer those questions. Who are you?
Yeah.
Somebody, who are you? You need to have and it's not even that the client asks the question. It's just presumed. You're going to need to go through and address those questions before somebody is going to entrust you with their money.
Right.
And it's sort of, it's not manipulative. It's not.
It's a framework for navigating the relationship, right?
Yeah,
like
and
if you
having
go
them get to know you.
Yeah.
About what you do. Now, what comes first, of course, is understanding as much as you can about the client.
Right.
So it's not necessarily the first. If you go in and talk about yourself for a half an hour to a potential client,
Right.
you're done.
Right.
But anyway, so I went around the entire country, like little dwarfs, and I was in Davos, in the little local office in Davos, and wherever they had a meaningful wealth management desk. I went there over the span of 18 months.
Nice.
And these guys and gals, they ate it up. It was cool. It was really productive.
Awesome. And so you were there for 3 years, and then some external event sort of bring you back to the United States?
We were there for 3 years. The kind of the assignment had run its course.
And were you planning on staying there indefinitely, or was the plan always to?
Well, no, I was open to it. I talked to sort of more senior management there to say, look, it's time for whatever the next thing is. I'm open to staying here, and we talked very seriously about me taking over like a market area, like a region. As the regional guy.
Yeah.
And I think the more they thought about it, and also the more I thought about it, it doesn't make sense to.
Yeah.
It's Swiss clients in Switzerland. It just wouldn't.
Yeah.
It just would have been a disconnect.
Right.
And so I came back to the U.S. But for anybody who contemplates doing an international assignment, a good question to ask before you do the international assignment is, what's the repatriation plan on the other end?
Yeah.
Because there wasn't one for me, so I was kind of casting about for all right, what I was obviously I was a valued employee, but it wasn't like, okay, here's the thing. I was sort of interviewing for various
to find the next role,
jobs.
to find the next opportunity. You're kind of just back and trying to figure out, okay, now what do I do? Right.
And it was how do you quantify how that assignment helped me as a manager, or it helped in many ways on a variety of levels.
Yeah.
But hard to what does that mean exactly?
Yeah. Nice. So just going back A little bit. So when you were first there from August to December, and you're in this intensive program, you're going to Germany. You mentioned sort of staying with an older couple. Was that like
Yeah.
kind of room and board over the weekend while you were at the school?
Yeah,
Or-
room and board over during the week.
During
so
the
I
week.
got there Sunday,
Got it. Okay.
and
so
they'd
you were
serve
back
me
home for
dinner
the
Sunday
weekend.
night, and then Friday afternoon I'd go back to Zurich.
Got it.
So it was tough for Lynn too, because she's home with 3 little kids and
Yeah.
trying to get all that together, get the household together, and everything else. Now, she had, as I said, her mother was there and sister, so she had some infrastructure.
Right.
But still,
Yeah.
having your dad, and husband be gone 5 days a week for 3 months is,
That's hard.
God bless Lynn. She's amazing, and
Yeah.
was amazing then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was, the first night I showed up, they picked me up. I didn't drive. They picked me up at the train station. And now maybe they spoke a little English and were just told, hey, part of your job here is do not speak any English. But
Yeah.
like I could sort of say my name. Like I had no idea what was going on.
But so they were not just playing a role hosting you, but they were actually also playing a role in like encouraging you and giving you opportunities to speak German.
Yeah, it was the two of us and the two of them and me,
Yeah.
sitting down for 2 meals a day. And, some days I'd go out to dinner. Like I did
Yeah,
other
yeah.
stuff, but they were getting paid, obviously,
Sure.
to host me. So I suspect some of it was income and some of it was, hey, they're executives basically coming in, or they were adults coming in
Yeah.
and doing these things. So it's not like you can have some 19-year-old who's out partying every night. And it took a little. It was a modest little house. It was, it took a little. I don't know. I had to just roll with it.
Yeah. Yeah. You were just immersed in the experience.
In the experience, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like being able to do sophomore year abroad as a 40-year-old, but with all the adult maturity to make the most of it.
Yeah. 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 That's fascinating.
It was, and my co-students were I remember this one guy. He was younger and a good guy, Slovenian, who worked for a family, hotel, and Slovenia is a günstig place to vacation from a German perspective, meaning, relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
And so they have a lot of German people staying at their hotel. And so he was there because he's a customer-facing guy.
Yeah. Hospitality. Sure.
Yeah, to be able to communicate more effectively. So there were a few people in that mode.
And
then
he
there
was
were
in the class with you, or he was staying in the same house?
No, he was in the class
in the
with me.
class. Just you
Yeah.
in the house. Yeah. Got it.
It was just me in the house.
Okay.
And so there were a few people sort of in the hospitality business. One woman who was from sort of obvious tourist destinations
Right.
for that Germans go to. So
Yeah.
like Mallorca,
Okay.
Croatia.
Mhm.
So pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then always a handful of sort of mid-level business types who would go for 2 weeks, to brush up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, living in Switzerland, I'm wondering, how did it feel? What are some of the things that you liked, or that were different than living in the United States, or different than places like do the trains really run on time?
Trains run on time. I mean, not only the trains run on time, the tram system runs to the minute. If a tram says it's showing up at 8:41, you're going to be there at 8:41.
Yeah.
Clockwork. This has changed a little bit in the interim, but on Sundays when we lived there, everything was closed. If you needed to get food like a supermarket kind of thing or anything, the only place to do so was at the train station.
Really?
Everything was closed, and Sunday was essentially family day. So there's nothing to do. You do family stuff. You go
Yeah.
on hikes. You go on
Yeah.
walks. You go to the zoo. Whatever.
Yeah.
That took a little getting used to,
Yeah. You got to
and
plan
then it became
around that.
it became quite pleasant.
Yeah.
It's very rules based, right? So in Europe, a lot of people hang laundry on a line. Not like regular people.
Yeah.
And that no can do on a Sunday, right? if you live in an apartment building, like there's no flushing the toilet after 11 o'clock at night because it could wake up your neighbors, kind of stuff like
Wow.
that. Yeah, sort of funky stuff like that.
Wait, so you can't hang your laundry out just because it's
On Sundays.
on Sundays
Yeah.
because
Sundays are family day.
because
Like,
Sundays are so it's just not
Yeah.
done.
it's just not done. And like you'll get scolded.
Is that go for like all kind of chore things? It's like no, you're not supposed to be doing that.
No, and at times this was 20 years ago, so
Sure.
times have changed a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
in the meantime. But yeah, like if you're at a crosswalk and it says "Don't walk,"
Mm-hmm.
and there's no cars coming,
Yeah.
people will sometimes cross
In
against
the
the
United
light.
States, people would. I
People-
might be guilty of like, hey,
Oh,
nobody coming.
people couldn't care less, right?
Yeah.
But like if say you're at a crosswalk and there's no cars anywhere, but there's a child around somewhere.
Yeah.
If you cross, like some little old lady's going to yell at you
Yeah.
because
It's
it's
not a good
bad.
example.
Children in third grade, when they're going to kindergarten, get their Streife, these like stripes, like it's like a fluorescent, like a workman's
Yeah.
fluorescent thing. It's like a yield sign,
Yep.
and you're not allowed to walk your kid to school.
Oh, so that's how they learn how to navigate.
That's how they learn how to like navigate.
I feel like Japan
and-
has a similar thing where you carry
Yeah.
like a flag and yeah,
Yeah,
Interesting.
same idea.
yeah,
So they teach them, how to how to navigate, and they don't need helicopter parents like walking Johnny right to the
right.
right to the front door. So it's a rules based society. They're not like I never once got invited to a Swiss colleague's home. Like they don't. That's just not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
You might meet out for dinner someplace, but you
Yeah.
would not go to their home. Yeah.
And I'm doing a lot of generalizing here about Swiss
Sure.
people, but typically they have an age-old tradition is called Stammtisch, which I don't even know what that means, other than like on Tuesday nights, a small group of friends meets every Tuesday night at 7:00 at the local establishment and shoots the shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of indicative that like a Stammtisch group, they might be in that group for 40 years, like it's their entire lives. Generally speaking, a Swiss person will have 3 or 4 friends, and that's good. And you say, well, you could have 5 friends, and they're like, well, what?
Right.
I've got 4 friends. What do I need a 5th friend for?
yeah.
And so we Americans are way more effusive and open. But what I came to learn is that the Swiss view us as oberflächlich, which means superficial.
Mm.
So in German, like if I saw you and I said, "Hey Glenn, wie geht es dir? How's it going?"
Yeah.
Like in English, if I say, "Hey Glenn, how's it going?" most of the time that just means, "Hey man, how are you?" Like, "Hey, hello."
Right.
In German, "Wie geht es dir?" means I want to hear how you're doing.
Yeah. You're
And so
expected
a lot of
to-
Americans walk by a colleague or whatever, say, "Hey, how's it going?" and then keep walking. And the Swiss person's like, "What the hell is that?"
Do you want to know how it's going or not?
Yeah. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And that we're very quick to, we'll put our arm around somebody and, be like super friendly, even very early on.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
it's neither
It's not
good nor
done.
bad. It's just you have to learn, how to navigate. And like if you're speaking with somebody that you don't know who's older, you use the formal, Sie versus du,
Right.
the formal.
The
Form.
formal you. Yeah.
And but even in the office, the Swiss people would call like somebody who's a layer, not their immediate boss, but the boss above that. They would say Herr Schmidt. Guten Morgen, Herr Schmidt. Like you wouldn't think of saying to your boss's boss like, "Good morning, Mr. Smith."
Right. Yeah.
You'd say, "Hey, Joe."
Yeah.
So there's a formality to the culture that I found quite endearing.
Yeah.
because there's a way in the language to sort of subtly indicate how close you want to be to somebody,
Yeah.
or how much chit chat you'd like to engage
Yeah.
in.
And there's a default like respectfulness to it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was. I've sort of always said I've never learned more about my country than I did during the 3 years that I lived outside of my country.
That's fascinating.
You know, good, bad, and otherwise.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was an incredible experience. It was not, there were a lot of challenges, and I love speaking German. It really doesn't matter what the language is. I found out that I've got a little bit of an affinity for acquiring language, and it's fun to me. It's like it's a mental game to play. So I've got a good friend here who lives in Needham who comes over and we do, Sprachstunde every few weeks where we just come
German
over.
practice.
German hour.
I like it. That's great.
Yeah.
Right on.
So,
And
yeah.
you still go back from time to time, just for family visits and holidays and things
Yep.
like that.
We were
Yeah.
there last Christmas and New Year's. We were there for 2 weeks. I don't know if I'll be getting back again.
Right.
Because it would be a big trip.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Never know. Yeah. Right on. Well,
I think when we went over our allotted time.
Yeah.
Probably, but
yeah. No, but this is good. This is good stuff.
fun story.
So many good stories, and always cool to get your perspective. But I think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
All right. Well, till next time.
Look
Take
forward
care of
to
yourself.
it. Yep. Be well.
If you have comments or questions for Pete and me, you can email us at 2224peter@gmail.com. If you'd like to get involved with or donate to ALS causes, check out ALS One at alsone.org. Thank you for listening.